Ezekiel's vision of the Third Temple. In the 25th year of Israel's exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th day of the month, Ezekiel 40 verse 1, the prophet Ezekiel was taken by the hand of the Lord and transported in a vision to a high mountain. Before him stood an extraordinary structure, a temple unlike any built before. This vision unfolded before his eyes, revealing a place of holiness, divine order, and the return of God's presence. The measurement of the temple, Ezekiel 40 to 42. At the temple stood a radiant figure whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze, Ezekiel 43. This heavenly being held a measuring rod in his hand and guided Ezekiel through the temple's courts, gates, and chambers. The temple's structure was precise, built according to divine design. The outer court had 3 gates, facing east, north, and south, each measuring 50 cubits wide and 25 cubits long. Ezekiel 40:21. Inside, an inner court stood with similar gates, leading to the innermost part, the sanctuary, the dwelling place of God. The entire temple followed a sacred pattern, symbolizing God's perfect order. The return of God's glory, Ezekiel 43, 1 through 12. Then came the most profound moment, the return of the glory of the Lord. Ezekiel was led to the east gate, and suddenly he saw the glory of the God of Israel coming from the east. His voice was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone with his glory. Ezekiel 43:2. The same glory that had once departed from Solomon's temple, Ezekiel 10:18-19, now returned, filling the new temple with divine radiance. As the presence of the Lord entered, Ezekiel fell on his face in reverence. Ezekiel 43:3. Then God spoke, "Son of man, this is the place of my throne, and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever." Ezekiel 43:7. No longer would God's presence leave his people. The temple would be a place of holiness, free from the corruption of past generations. The new priestly order and sacrificial system, Ezekiel 44-46. Ezekiel was then shown the restored priesthood. The Lord commanded that only the sons of Zadok, a faithful priestly lineage, would serve in his presence. The priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, who kept charge of my sanctuary when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister to me. Ezekiel 44:15. Unlike in past generations, the temple would have strict regulations to maintain purity. The Prince of Israel would have a special role in offering sacrifices, Ezekiel 46:1 through 8, ensuring the people remained obedient in worship. The River of Life. Flowing from the temple, Ezekiel 47:1 through 12. Ezekiel was then led back to the temple's threshold, where he saw something astonishing, a small stream trickling from beneath the temple's door, flowing eastward. As the water flowed, it deepened. First, it reached Ezekiel's ankles, Ezekiel 47:3. Then it rose to his knees, Ezekiel 47:4. Soon, it was deep enough to swim in, a mighty river that could not be crossed, Ezekiel 47:5. This river was not ordinary, it brought life and healing. Wherever the waters flowed, dead land became fertile, and even the lifeless Dead Sea was made fresh, Ezekiel 47:8 through 9. Along its banks grew trees, whose leaves will not wither and whose fruit will not fail, bearing fresh fruit every month. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for medicine, Ezekiel 47:12. This imagery mirrors the river of life in Revelation 22, which flows from the throne of God and the Lamb, bringing eternal healing to the nations. The reorganization of the land and the city of God, Ezekiel 47:13-48:35. Finally, Ezekiel saw the restored land of Israel. The 12 tribes, once scattered, would receive their inheritance in an orderly manner, with each portion stretching from the east side to the west. Ezekiel 48:1 through 8. At the center stood a sacred district for the priests, Levites, and the prince. The vision concluded with the revelation of a new city where God's people would dwell securely. Its name? Yahweh Shammah, the Lord is there. Ezekiel 48:35. This was not merely a place, it was a promise. No longer would God's people be abandoned, his presence would remain forever. The meaning of the vision, a future temple, a symbol, or Christ fulfilled? Ezekiel's temple has sparked debate for centuries. Is it a literal future temple to be built during the Messianic age? A symbolic vision of God's eternal presence? Or was it ultimately fulfilled in Jesus Christ, the true and living temple? Some believe it refers to a future millennial temple to be built when God restores Israel, as seen in Zechariah 14:16 and Isaiah 2:2-3. Others see it as a metaphor for God's perfect dwelling among his people, pointing to the New Jerusalem in Revelation 21.